Hello and good evening, and this is a follow-on from the last video that I would have completed concerning some of the Chinese internal as well as external martial arts that I would have studied. So in the previous episode I would have covered Tantui, Shaolin Changchuan and Baguazhang. Each one of those, let's say, like being Chinese martial arts, with the Tantui and the Shaolin Changchuan being external or Shaolin based Kung Fu, and Baguazhang being internal or Taoist Kung Fu, or based upon Taoist concepts and precepts. So this evening I'd like to kind of maybe discuss like one of the two other, let's say, like sister arts to Tai Chi, or should I say Baguazhang. So the three main Taoist, or let's say based upon Taoist, let's say internal alchemy. There are a number of others, but like the three most well known ones are Taiji-Chuan, commonly referred to in the West as Tai Chi Chuan, Xingyi-Chuan, which is the 5-element fist, and Baguazhang, which is the palm of the 8 shapes, or the 8 diagram palm, as a rough translation. Overall, Xingyi, Bagua and Taiji share quite a number of ideas and concepts, and you can see quite a little bit of a crossover like between them, but they really do have, let's say, a firm, let's say, kind of grouping of concepts like within them. And while not to kind of, let's say, like generalize, having kind of trained, let's say, like in the three arts, like, and had the opportunity like to train with a number of people and teachers, Bagua would seem to be the most complex, in the sense of the variations like that can be done. Now, Bagua would really, let's say, like focus on, let's say, like the 8 main palms, and these can then be, let's say, like change, like you can have, let's say, like one palm facing out this way. This could be, let's say, one particular palm shape, and then let's say you could have, let's say, like the heaven like palm shape. So you can then, let's say, like then mix or blend like these palms like while doing these changes. So like 8 times 8 like gives you 64, and then you can extrapolate like upon that like once again. So it's almost like a binary coding, and it does allow you, let's say, like to kind of extrapolate more and more on it over time. Tai Chi Chuan, I've had the opportunity to study Chen Tai Chi Chuan with Nick Gudge, and also Yang style Tai Chi Chuan like with Stuart Shinkins, and both of those people will be like great teachers. I'd highly recommend studying with them and learning this form. Now, Tai Chi Chuan, it focuses on a number of, let's say, like concepts like but the primary 4 kind of energies would be Peng, Ji, Lu, An, as in ward off, roll back, Ji meaning squeeze, and An meaning push. So you'll see that like quite a lot as the kind of the expression of power, let's say, like in the Yang system of Tai Chi Chuan. If I was kind of, let's say, talking, let's say, kind of combat wise, Tai Chi works on soft power, as in power like that can be expressed in a number of different ways, like via vibration, whipping, circular torsion, like twisting, and also adhering, let's say, like to the opponent. Tai Chi as a combative art focuses like quite a lot, let's say, on Tinjin, which is the listening skills like that you get like from doing push hands like with a partner, and being able to kind of feel their structure. And if you feel that their structure is for example like off point, you can then, let's say, how would you say it, you could then push them off, or lead them to fall over, or you could put a joint lock on them, or you could offset them, and while they're offset or off balance, you can then like hit like kind of a strike on top of them. So there is quite an element, let's say, of off balancing, breaking the structure of the opponent, putting them in a compromising position, and then thereafter either dealing, let's say, like a knockout blow, or a blow sufficient, let's say, to submit, or let's say to pacify, let's say, like the aggressor, or be You use something like a kind of a joint lock, chin na, or shui fa, which is the throwing, let's say, methods, to either put the person down, let's say, on the ground, or you put them into a kind of a position whereby their joints are locked up, or like they can no longer, let's say, continue, let's say, like to attack you. So you've basically submitted them with a control, let's say, of one of the joints on their bodies. So Tai Chi Chuan, it's got a lot of, let's say, like skills like within it. It is multi-layered. Overall, it's great like for health. Doing, let's say, like Tai Chi Chuan like in the morning, like, is a great way to start oiling up your joints, getting the body and the fascia, which is like the connective tissue between the muscles and the joints, getting that lubricated, let's say, in the morning. One of the kind of like the issues like the people like face in the West is that when they get up in the morning and they're going to work, let's say, ordinarily there really isn't kind of what you would describe as a warm up. Okay, so for example, you could have, let's say, a builder who's worked very hard the day, let's say, like before, gets up out of the bed, his muscles are still like kind of creaky, kind of a little bit like sore, let's say, from the previous day's work. Goes in, has his breakfast, like then out the door, let's say, like in a car, like to work in a kind of a cramped position maybe, and then they're back on the building site like once again. So this over a period of time, like it can, let's say, like cause like infirmity, like in the joints, like the muscles, etc., because you're not actually warming your body up or getting your body, let's say, like moving gradually, like to be performing, let's say, like this heavy like kind of like labor, and it does like affect people, let's say, over time. Now in China, Tai Chi Chuan was used like for a significant period of time, let's say, like to deal with a number of ailments. There was a position, let's say, like during the 1950s onwards, whereby the Chinese health system, which is based upon an integration of both the Western and the Eastern, let's say, treatment like of human ailments. The Western, let's say, like let's say, systems like as regards to the drugs, like the treatment, etc. It was pretty much like at breaking point, and basically if you could not like get in like to the hospital, like or if you weren't basically thrown down on death's door, you're basically said go away, because you're basically taking up, let's say, like a time like that could be dealt with or dealing with a more serious case. But it got to such, let's say, stage like in the cities and the local provinces, whereby anyone, let's say, with particular, let's say, like ailments, rather than, let's say, treating them, they would basically tell them go off and do Tai Chi. So you're to go off and do Tai Chi like for the next like 3 months, come back to me like and see how you are. And in a number of like instances, like people were cured or had some of their ailments like significantly, let's say, like improved over that period of time. So Tai Chi as an art like has like a number of kind of curative, let's say, like and healing effects. It works on a number like parts like of the human body. I found like a great benefit like for the shoulders, like the strength in the back, the strength in your knees, etc. Over periods of time. It also helped me kind of clear up some issues that I was experiencing like with my ankle. I sprained, let's say, my right ankle like quite significantly on 2 or 3 occasions, and I felt like doing Tai Chi like over a significant period of time like it really did help like strengthen like and tonify like the ligaments and tendons around that area. And it's not heavy exercise where you're sprinting, running, jogging or anything else like that. It's really you're learning to move your body, control your body, shift your body, balance and equilibrium effectively. And it's overall like it was a health and kind of, let's say, like a fitness regime. It's great. The martial arts like aspect of it, it has a lot of, let's say, like potential as well, but it really depends on what the teacher who's teaching you's capabilities are and whether they want to actually teach it, let's say, like as a martial, let's say, art. But there is quite a number of, let's say, like methods like and quite dangerous, let's say, methods like within the art, and kind of having exposure, let's say, like to the other two, let's say, internal martial arts, both Xingyi and Bagua, having trained those and trained them, let's say, like with a different teacher, you can then let's say like go kind of retrospectively, let's say like go compare contrast like go some of the movements overall, to give you an idea let's say like of their applications, but also kind of give you a different insight into how it could be used. Now, in China now, there are like martial arts schools, or Chinese internal martial arts schools, which teach the three arts like together. So, for example, the Sun family of Sun Lutang teach let's say Taiji, Xingyi, and Bagua all together, and they also have a number of forms like which are mixed variations like of these particular arts as well. You also have other teachers who teach like mixtures of like Taiji-Bagua, and then you've also got teachers who just like focus let's say on each single art, and maybe they would cross train with another let's say like a family or line of that particular art. So for example, in Bagua you have Yin Fu style Baguazhang, you have Chongtinghua Baguazhang, you have Liang Baguazhang, etc., etc. So it's a lot of people, if they like a particular art, they'll cross train let's say with a master like from a different line off the same branch of a tree. So it is common like to kind of cross train let's say like in a number of like different martial arts, and kind of let's say maybe moving on like to the next art, Xingyi Chuan. Xingyi Chuan is a very powerful, devastating mid to close range system. Being on the receiving end of it, it can be very frightening, and that's like comparing it like to some of the other let's say Chinese martial arts as well. It not like denigrating them, but there is definitely something around like the spirit or the intent of Xingyi Chuan. So Xingyi meaning like shape or form, and then fist. So Xing meaning shape, Yi meaning the intent, and Chuan meaning the fist. So mind, intent, or shape, intent, fist. But a number of the precepts of it are based on wuxing, which is the 5 element cycle. So you have let's say like Pi Chuan, Xuan Chuan, Bong Chuan, Pao Chuan, Hung Chuan. So Pi Chuan would be splitting fist, Bong Chuan would be crushing fist, Xuan Chuan would be the uppercut let's say like or the spiraling fist. Pao Chuan is the kind of the cannon let's say fist, or the fist like based upon the fire element, and then you basically have Hun Chuan, which is based on earth, which is the kind of the crossing element. So each one of them has their own particular concepts and kind of ways of generating like a power let's say from the 5 fists. Once you've learned the 5 fists, you then let's say progress on like to wuxing lian huan chuan, which is the 5 elements linked fists. So you're learning like to link each one of the fists like one after the next. After that, you then let's say would have a study like of the Shi or Xing Chuan, which is the 12 animals. My kind of let's say education in Shigi didn't kind of really progress like beyond that, but there are like a number of other let's say like mixed fist sets based upon the 5 elements, the 12 animals, and a couple of other let's say forms as well. And like essentially like speaking let's say like after you've learned the fist sets, like you then would go on to learn like the broadsword, the straight sword, the spear, and the staff, and any other supplementary let's say weapons like that will be based upon let's say like the particular teacher's background. I was lucky enough to kind of with one way you had to get an exposure like to the staff and the spear methods, and they really are let's say some very straightforward, very devastating, and the movements like are like done like with a significant intent. I mean let's say the intent of Xingyi Chuan is to destroy the opponent like at all costs, even if it involves let's say like potentially sacrificing yourself. Hopefully you don't, but the intent is basically I'm looking at an opponent and I'm basically going to go through them. I am going to smash through them. I'm going to let's say just obliterate them. And even in retreat, so let's say if someone got caught off guard, even in retreat with some of the stepping patterns, even in retreat, there is an attack, let's say, going out, let's say, like, go to the opponent as well. So, I mean, overall, it's like Xingyi Chuan like has a lot of, let's say, like very good, straightforward like self-defense applications. At the later stages like of the art, there is quite a lot of subtle and as well as devastating, let's say, like maneuvers. I'm talking like whereby you're causing significant damage like to the skeletal structure of a person, putting strain on the neck, the back. Some of the takedowns are absolutely devastating. Even kind of describing them like as takedowns is, it's kind of not doing them justice. It's really a knockdown or an absolute, you're knocked off your feet and you're basically landing on the floor, let's say, like with your whole body weight. You might be even knocked out by the time, let's say, you hit the floor as well. So when you're crashing down, you're hitting your head like off the ground, like etc. That's the kind of the combative intent of it. So really, let's say, like training, let's say, Xingyi Chuan, Baguazhang and Taiji, cross training with a number of different teachers, like it has like given me like quite a good overview, let's say, like of Chinese martial arts. I know some people like that have had the ability like to study, let's say, with many different lines of Chinese internal martial arts, and I mean overall it's the reason why I actually studied was actually my love of Kung Fu. I just absolutely loved I loved the art. I loved the kind of the philosophy and the concepts behind it, and it's almost, for want of a better word, it does have an almost like this science aspect about it. Having a kind of discussion, let's say, like with friends and other practitioners lately, the kind of the issue of kind of like purity in Chinese martial arts really came up. Now, purity and like kind of, let's say, having a collection of concepts and kind of, let's say, techniques and practice methods like to follow on with those concepts, yeah, that's good. But I mean, ideally, you can't really, let's say, like stay in one particular like time frame. I mean, if you look at, let's say, Baguazhang, let's say, like in the 1800s, it's probably like quite different like to the way it's practiced today, and that's because of like subsequent generations of input building upon that. I mean, even, let's say, some of the kind of the other like Chinese internal martial arts like Taiji-Xingyi-Bagua Chuan or Yi Chuan, that has built up, let's say, over, let's say, the exposure like to other, let's say, Western martial arts. So Taiji-Xingyi-Bagua Chuan or Yi Chuan, basically took elements like of Western boxing, grappling, and it mixed it, let's say, like with a number of aspects of like Xingyi Chuan, and basically remolded the system like to be able to deal, let's say, like with Western martial arts. The same, let's say, with the founder of, let's say, like Qingwu, Ho Yunjia. I mean, Ho Yunjia, let's say, would have adapted, let's say, like his Shaolin Mizhong Chuan, which is a basically lost track Kung Fu, and Mizhong Chuan like is an integration of a number of like different like Shaolin systems, and that system was modified and adapted a little bit like as well like to deal, let's say, like with a Western boxer, a Western wrestler. As far as I believe, let's say, Hu Yunjia like would have fought a number of boxers as well as wrestlers like over his career, and he was like quite successful like against these fighters or different paradigms of fighting. So I really do think if you are studying, let's say, like Chinese, let's say, like internal martial art, let's say, like today, while keeping the forms and the power generation methods, like these are very important things like to do. Once you actually have like the power generation, once you're able to generate power, it's then a matter of, let's say, adapting it like to deal with the circumstances that you're faced with. But one thing that is kind of like lacking nowadays is the kind of the connect like between dealing with like aggressive circumstances and having your actual internal martial art like or your Chinese martial art like ready to be able to deal like with the current like conflicts. So rather than just learning, let's say, standard adaptations, like to kind of self-defense scenarios, you really have to kind of look at your art, revisit it, and let's say apply it, let's say like under pressure, like over a period of time. Now, that's not maybe like for everyone. Depends on how far, let's say, you want to go, like in a particular martial art. But I would suggest that if you are professing like to teach a martial art, that at least your art, let's say, is adaptable enough so that you can deal with what are the common forms of aggression. And being honest about it, this does vary by culture, and it varies by country as well. And also in some countries you've got like the element of having to deal, let's say, like with weapons, knives, guns, let's say like your long blades, impact weapons, hidden weapons. It is a very kind of like a different like a paradigm. I mean, from one particular aspect, when the Chinese, let's say, would have moved to Malaysia, and there would have been, let's say, like maybe different like fights and factions like between, let's say, like the Chinese communities and the native like Indonesian Malay communities. A number of the Chinese martial arts like masters like found like that some of their techniques didn't work against the Penchat Silat like practitioners, and likewise the Penchat Silat practitioners found out like that some of their techniques didn't stand up against like the Chinese martial arts. So you had a kind of a period of hybridization where they learned like from each other, they exchanged like techniques, and after that like a new hybrid martial arts like Kun Tao Silat were formed like thereafter. One particular martial art, as far as I'm aware, Lian Patuquan, that is a combination like of Wing Chun, Hakka Kyun, which is basically Hakka people, Kung Fu, their particular arts or whatever arts that they practice, and Penchat Silat. So martial arts do change. I don't think there's such a thing as purity in martial arts, but you really have to kind of look at your art, look at the layers of it, and readdress like some of the actual the teachings maybe like that you've received to deal with, let's say, with modern, let's say, confrontations. The last like point I'd like to kind of like finish up on, let's say, particularly like for Chinese martial artists, I think like some of the best training methods I found are in the two partner practices, where it's either a link set where you're dealing with it with your against an opponent. A lot of these techniques are taught, let's say, like in a kind of a compliance, let's say, like a fashion whereby it's almost like a two partner dance, like a tango, whatever you want to say. But from my perspective, like these particular like training methods, that's where a lot of the gold is to be found if you're willing to kind of dig deeper and kind of extract it out. Because like a number of these training methods contain setups, entries, setups for joint locks, sleight of hand type of maneuvers, like and there are a number of, let's say, like hidden options like in each, let's say, like a two-man set, whereby you can discover like quite a number of like options and variables like from each situation, and that's up to each person like to research themselves. But I would suggest, let's say, like A, you test your art like on a regular basis. B, you adapt your art like to the modern, let's say, like confrontational situations that you're faced with, and that depends on culture, which country you're living in, etc. Whether it's a culture that deals with like firearms like or knives or impact weapons on a regular basis. And finally, do look into the, let's say, like the two-man sets that are actually contained like within your systems. So I know that's a particular long video. I hope you've enjoyed, let's say, like some of the points like that were raised. And if you do have any questions, you can always send a message like through the Corto Combat Eskrima Facebook page, and you can also connect and follow on YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed the talk, and as I said, any questions, just shoot them off to me. Have a nice evening.